If you want to change your social circle, you get to spend time with people who are above your average or above your norm. And that's what the book
So,
essentially lays down. How to get to those people, how to identify those people, and how to build relationships with those people.
so fly with the eagles and not with the turkeys.
Exactly. Fly with the eagles, not with the turkeys, to the point that you forget what a turkey looks or feels like.
Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhner.
So, as you can see, Andy is keeping himself nice and fit and exercising. I love it. I should do the same. Andy is a renowned small business marketing expert and founder of Reta. With a proven track record, he specializes in assisting small businesses in effectively marketing their high-ticket services through webinars, which have attracted over thousands of entrepreneurs. I just want to mention that he is a Forbes 30 under 30 nominee. He made his first million at the age of 21. He's a best-selling author of the No More Average book, a national tour speaker. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about Andy's background and a little bit about how you sell high-ticket items using webinars. So welcome.
Thank you so much, my friend, for having me. Nicholas, it's a pleasure to be here with you and all of your listeners.
Before we start, I think it's important that we start with a power clap. So I'm not sure if you can do a power clap while you are walking, but I'm going to do it in 3, 2, 1.
That's right.
So we'll talk about that a little bit later and why that's important. But Andy, give me a rundown. I was quite impressed. I mean, running a business at 21, tough. You obviously started with a big endowment from your parents and a silver spoon, etc. Talk me through your early career in entrepreneurship.
I wish I was the case, man, but the reality is at 21, or even before that, starting my entrepreneurship journey, it really started like shoveling snow just to make ends meet. I remember being young, living in my mom's house, and it's snowing outside and it's cold and we don't have enough money to pay for the heat. Like, we had to turn on the heat just enough so that the pipes don't break, but not enough to warm up your body. So I'm going to bed with jackets and sweaters on top of that. And then I go under multiple blankets just to stay warm at night. And it's in those moments where I realize, like, I get to be an entrepreneur and I get to create my own freedom. But not only that, I get to take care of my family to the point that this doesn't happen again. And that's what really kicked off my entrepreneurship journey. There was a moment where my dad went to New York to go buy clothes. And when he came back, there was a specific shoes that I asked him for, which was the Nike Air Forces. And I was in 6th grade, and I remember asking my dad, like, I really want the Nike Air Forces. Can you help me get them? Or can you get them for me? He said, yeah. But he came back without them. And it was in that moment where, because he didn't have the finances to be able to get those shoes were $160. When my dad goes to New York to buy shirts and clothes, he's buying shirts for $2, $1. So for $160, that was a huge investment for my family at that time. And I went to go out to shovel and clean grass and so on and so forth and mow people's lawns to make up that $160. And I remember when I got it, I realized how hard it was to work to get the money. But it was a learning lesson that finances really runs this world. And that was my start on my entrepreneurship journey.
Well, obviously, very inspiring story, and having a bit of hardship early on means that you enjoy the success even more as you go on. So, better not to have been born with a silver spoon. Even though I'm sure having a silver spoon would have been much more, much more pleasant. But let's talk a little bit about your company, your SaaS system. I'm not going to go through in too much detail now, but I want to talk about what goes around it. So how are you helping entrepreneurs make money, basically?
So we install marketing systems in small businesses, coaches and course creators specifically, and we install marketing systems. So we share with them how to do one-on-one sales, and then we install the marketing technology, all the emails and text messages that go out for the one-on-one sales. We build out webinar systems, and those webinar systems to bring and attract. Last year, we had over 6,500 people just attend my own personal webinar without any ad spend. And then we sell a software to those entrepreneurs so that way they can implement the same systems that I'm doing essentially in my business. So one-on-one sales and then one-to-many sales systems.
So what got you into this space? Because you started out shoveling snow. Then you went into the telecoms business. I know you've had some selling experience as well. But what got you into creating webinars, and when can you remember the moment when you said, "Holy crap, I'm good at this, and this is going to be my life now"?
My previous job before doing what I'm doing now is I was a field sales representative where I would go around the country and I would fill up seminar rooms for some motivational speakers, one of them being Les Brown, the motivational speaker. So I would travel around the country, help fill up those seminar rooms, and I would sell tickets to local small business owners. The way that it would work, let's say an example is that they have a room of 400 seats for a conference or a seminar that 400 attendees can join. Well, their marketing team might only sell 200, 250 tickets. That delta, or that difference of 150 people, when you're 6 weeks out away from the event, they're going to send someone like me and say, hey, the amount of ads that we would have to spend to fill up that extra 150 seats, it'll be better just for us to pay for a flight, a hotel, get Andy, someone like Andy, a car, and set up some appointments where Andy can go to a real estate office and talk to 40 realtors, for example, and sell tickets to all out of that group. So if I do 10 appointments like that, that's 150 people, right? So that's essentially what I would do for a few weeks to start filling up the remaining seminar seats. So I started doing that, and then in 2020, I had a 13-city tour lined up where I was going to do 13 cities, all under my name at this point. It wasn't under anyone else's name. And then COVID-19 shut down all of our events, one after the other. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, oh, COVID-19 is going to cancel just one event or push back one event. And the dates just kept on pushing back. So March, you can't do March. April, you can't do April's event. In May, you can't do May's event. And kept on pushing back to the point that I started to realize, like, yeah, the whole year is done. And then I transitioned to online because I had 13 cities sold out. I transitioned to online, and I realized online is now called a webinar. I took the same strategies of what I did in person. We just did it online, and I realized I could create better results. So rather than putting a couple 100 people into a room, I could put a couple 1,000 people through on Zoom.
You've obviously been doing this for a few years now. If I can ask you, you mentioned some of the folks that would get value out of this. So you mentioned coaches and content creators. Who has got the best success out of your system? And when I say best success, they've listened to you from A to Z. And I see you've got a 3-step process as well in terms of improving funnels and things in that, which we can go into later. But talk to me about who gets best value out of using your software and going through your training.
Coaches, course creators, and consultants. So I'm talking about like for example, we have Nikolina, her name is Nikolina Ivanov. Actually, I never really said her last name. I know her first name. She's actually, her family and I are very close, and I've never said her last name. However, Nikolina. In Nikolina's case, she was a pregnant mom when she came in, and she was doing a lot of one-on-one sales. And she was doing it in a small office here in Las Vegas. Today, she took the exact system that we implemented for her in 2022. She still implements it today, and now she's on a national tour. So this week, as of this week, she's in San Diego. Last week, she was in San Francisco, and she's an online coach that teaches people how to start a freelance makeup business. So she's a business coach, and she teaches these young girls how to start their freelance makeup business. And she went from doing one-on-one sales calls to now she has virtual assistants that we placed for her inside of her business. So our virtual assistants is managing her entire business. And on top of that, she follows our system. So for example, she hosts webinars to sell her programs and products. And then now she's scaled to the point where she's on a national tour going around the country, educating her students who went through the funnels that we designed and helped her set up, going through those funnels to actually tickets for her in-person events. So she does online webinars, plus she does the in-person events.
Yeah, and I suppose thankfully COVID's gone, so we do have the ability to do both. Do you see in-person seminars making a comeback?
Yeah, I'm doing in-person events as well. So I have one coming up in a month. And I've been going around the world, actually, going from London to Philippines. I just did one in the Philippines a couple weeks ago. So a huge value of doing in-person events today. But the value of doing the webinars is you get to reach an audience that's probably not going to come to your in-person events. So there's stronger relationships that are built at in-person events, but on the webinars, you're able to touch more people and make a bigger impact around the world. In-person events, it's primarily localized.
If I can ask, what is the toughest part of your job right now?
That's a good question. That's probably a question that no one has ever really asked. The toughest part of my job is people management. I'm in a mastermind where we talk about processes, money management, and people management. And in this mastermind, we all talk about the biggest challenge that we have is people management, and I see that to be true. In my company, I move fast. I have a big vision. And for example, if you're starting a business, a team that gets you from starting your business to, let's say, $500,000 in revenue is probably not going to be the same team that's going to get you from $500,000 in revenue to $1 million. And the same team that got you from $1 million is probably not going to be the same team that gets you to 3. And there's going to be some people that are going to go and stay along the journey, and there's going to be some people who are going to fall off on the journey. And when people fall off, to replace those people and ramp them up is a challenge as your business grows. You'll see, I've seen where there are employees who work at a business for 20, 30 years, but then if you look at that business's revenue, you look at that business's lead flow, you look at that business's leader, they're all the same. Same amount of new leads, same amount of new customers, same amount of revenue. Kind of things are kind of the same. And what tends to happen is that as the business grows, it requires new leadership and new skills. So for example, today, we're operating, in my company, we're operating on a player plus AI status. Now, what that means is, let's say 2024, 2023 and on and before, you can hire B players to work on certain tasks inside of your company. You can hire C players. When I say A, B, and C, A is like top of the top tier, B is average, C is below average. So there's certain tasks in any organization, such as like pick up the phone, like a receptionist, like pick up the phone, that can be given to a B player in any organization. Just pick up the phone, take notes, and then transfer it to the all-star, right? That's a receptionist. What I'm noticing is that B players and C players are being replaced by AI, by artificial intelligence. So today, there's an audit going on, not only in my company, but in many of our clients' companies that we consult with, where there's an audit going on who are B and C players and start transitioning their jobs with AI. I'm talking about from almost any role, from graphic designers to funnel designers. You can build funnels with AI today, and you can do graphics with AI today. You can do appointment setting with AI. So now the biggest challenge that I'm experiencing is people management and transitioning people to be A players, guiding and coaching any B players on my team, make them A players. And not only just an A player, but they're managing some form of AI to make their job more easier as well as more scalable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're the only one in the world with people problems. It's one of the HR problems, one of the biggest challenges most companies have, especially as they're growing. And it's not a nice problem to have, but it's a good problem to have because it means you're growing and you now have to take yourself to. But when you're talking about certain roles being taken over by AI, absolutely. And it just puts more pressure on those A players as well, because the interesting point you mentioned there is that somebody who is an A player now and generating, say, 10 leads a day, and in 10 years, if they're still producing 10 leads a day, that's not good enough. So that person has to change with the time and utilize this new technology that's coming along. So great answer, thank you. Now let's talk a little bit about your book, which is No More Average. Can you talk me through the book and who that caters to?
What I found is that the way to grow and the way to scale, average is equivalent to what I shared with earlier about the A, B, and C. A is going to be above average, B is average, C is below. In what I found in entrepreneurship and growing and scaling or doing anything that is getting out of your comfort zone, the way to grow is to be above and spend time above the average, whatever your norm is. Average is common denominator amongst your social circle. So if you're looking to grow financially, if you look at your financial environment, let's say everyone is making $10,000 a month in income, USD. and you catch yourself, you're kind of within $2,000 of that. You're either around the 8,000 or you're above by an additional. But if your social circle is making 10 grand a month on average, you're going to be within the 2 grand. If you want to change your income level, you got to get out of your average circle and go above average. And that's when you got to spend time with people, for example, who earns $1 million or $2 million. So I remember in the beginning of my journey, yes, you made a comment. When I was 21, I made my first $1 million. And I didn't never looked at that as an accomplishment. For a long time, because my social circle at the time were making tens of millions of dollars. My mentors at the time, my friends, were pulling up in Jaguars, and I'm making 80, 85 months, sometimes 6 figures a month. And I'm like, oh, man, I can never catch up to these guys. Not till I realized, like, I traveled the country and I started to realize, like, hey, the majority of America is actually not living this way. So my perception of the world was completely different by being around above average people. So No More Average is communicating that if you want to change your social circle, you get to spend time with people who are above your average or above your norm. And that's what the book essentially lays down. How to get to those people, how to identify those people, and how to build relationships with those people.
So fly with the eagles and not with the turkeys.
Exactly. Fly with the eagles, not with the turkeys, to the point that you forget what a turkey looks or feels like.
Exactly. Where am I going to send folks to learn a little bit more about Andy, and where they can find out a little bit more about these SaaS services you've got, and perhaps buy your book and look at your other services, Andy?
So for me, in my journey, the way that I've grown in income is actually off of SaaS. Like you said, software as a service. So I have a t-shirt that says God made me rich off SaaS. And then our website is ghlengine.com, or you can check us out at andyaudate.com, ANDYAUDATE.com. And I'm Andy on all social platforms.
I think I was doing a Latin pronunciation there, Audate, so it's Audate. So thanks, Andy, for that. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. And folks, always good to remember that it's important to know who you surround yourself with, because that's going to have a huge impact on both your life and your family's lives. Andy, thank you so much.
Nicholas, thank you so much for having me, my friend.
I really do appreciate your comments. So why not go and watch this live on YouTube, or go to my website, kuhne.no. That's KUHNE.no for more information.